the UK, the FTSE 100 fell 1.9% by mid-morning, despite UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's pledge to lay out a plan to exit nationwide lockdowns. Well, let's get more updates on this from Juliana Olayinka, who joins us from our London studios. Good afternoon, Juliana. It's both of us once again. Now, bring us up to speed with the intraday numbers. What has changed from the opening figures and why?
Well, what's changed is that we've had a string of data from the housing market, Bissy. So there's a triple-digit fall on the FTSE at intraday. The Bank of England have released data that shows that mortgage approvals in April has fallen significantly by tens of thousands. Nobody didn't expect that, really, because, of course, the lockdown and the new measures on whether or not you can move into a new home were definitely going to take that into account. But I think what the concern here is how the industry will bite back after lockdown measures have been eased, because we know it's going to be really difficult for consumers to feel confident again. A lot of people are going to be more cautious with how they spend their money. There has been a flip side, and that it showed also that house prices were on the rise in April. I believe they rose by about 3.8%. So that was some good news. But of course, the caveat is this information hasn't been able to take into all of the data that has been collated since the lockdown. So to the numbers, the all share is down 2.08%, the FTSE 100 is down 1.92%, and the FTSE 250 is down 1.74%. In currencies, the pound is also down on the dollar by 0.34%, down on the euro by 0.61%, and down on the Japanese yen by 0.74%.
On the data front now, the final UK market manufacturing PMI reading shows that British manufacturers suffered their worst decline in output for 3 decades in April. Was it all about COVID-19?
It was all about COVID-19, Bissy, and we're seeing poor PMI numbers across the globe. And again, it's another grim set of data for Britain. The manufacturing did fall to about 36. It was slightly higher than what analysts had expected, but 50 is that benchmark, and anything significantly below that shows major contraction. As you said, this is the worst manufacturing data that we've seen on record, and I believe the PMI manufacturing has been going for about 28 years. The same thing that we've seen in many other instances. The global demand just isn't there. They've also been having, manufacturers have been having issues getting into easier border control. Since the lockdown, it's still been really difficult for manufacturers to move their things around, not just in the air, but also by sea. So it hasn't been great. I suppose the reason why it still stayed in that 30 zone and didn't go anywhere lower than that is because of the pharmaceutical industry that, of course, are doing significantly well. AstraZeneca, they released their results at the beginning of this week, and they're doing better than they've ever done. And, of course, groceries and food. Food, even though people are not necessarily panic buying at the moment, in UK shops, British food sales are still up by about 10%.
In corporate news now, RBS has reported that its first quarter profits halves from the same period last year, with pre-tax profit coming in at £519 million. However, its shares gained in early trade. So what are investors seeing differently in that result?
Oh, well, unfortunately, Bissy, I haven't had a look at those figures. They must have just come in. But if I can kind of have a look into next week, because, of course, the outlook for next week in Britain is that people are definitely awaiting to hear an update from British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. When we spoke this morning, we discussed the fact that the Business Secretary, for the first time, will be giving an outline of what exactly businesses are going to have to look like if they are going to maintain those social distancing rules. Next week will be the 6th week that Britain is in this lockdown. So on Thursday, we'll all be eagerly awaiting an update from the Prime Minister of what that new normal will be looking like. And of course, on Wednesday, we have Prime Minister's questions. This will be the first time in a couple of weeks that we've seen Prime Minister Boris Johnson at the dispatch box. The first time he missed it, you know, he was just coming back from the brink of death. And then on Wednesday this week, it was announced that he had a new baby boy. So unless there's another crucial story, we'll be seeing him next week, and hopefully we'll be having some significant updates.
All right, well, we'll look forward to that, Juliana. Tell us, what's the outlook for next week?
Okay, so, well, the outlook for next week is what will be happening with those lockdown measures. We've already seen that most of Europe has been locked down. For example, Germany, they released measures earlier this week, but one of the issues that Germany has been having recently is that they are starting to see a significant rise in the number of infections, and that's exactly what Boris Johnson and England and Britain are trying to negate. They don't want to see those rises in number. We're likely over the weekend to hit that 30,000 mark. There are some suggestions that perhaps our numbers could be close to 50,000. Britain is definitely on course to becoming one of the most affected regions hit by the coronavirus in Europe, and there are some significant questions as to what has gone wrong. It is the 1st of May. Yesterday, the 30th of April, was the target day for our Health Secretary to hit the 100,000 a day test marks. Apparently he has hit that, which is good news. And of course, we all know that the only way you can combat the coronavirus is by testing and tracing the individuals. And that's exactly what Britain are trying to do so they can get the economy back from the brink.
Many thanks, Juliana, and do have a wonderful weekend.